Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to back up our system using a free tool called Macrium Reflect. Right after the intro. Okay everyone, so today we're going to be talking all about backing up our system. And I think we can all agree that it's always a good idea to back up your system, both on a regular basis and especially if we're making any significant changes to the settings on the system, updating the software, or changing anything else with this system. We always want to have that backup because if something does go wrong, we can always get the system back to the way it was before we made the change. So this video is going to have a couple different parts to it. Down below the video you will see chapters, and you can select the chapters to move forward or backwards within the video. In the first section here, we're going to be installing the Macrium Reflect software on Windows, and we're going to be doing a backup from within Windows. In the second part, we're going to be booting the system and doing a backup from the recovery media. And this is going to be especially useful if you have a system that you're unable to boot. This will allow you to back up a non-bootable system, and then you can repair the system and restore the files selectively back to the system. So in any event, let's go ahead and get started. Quick reminder folks, remember to hit that thumbs up. It helps others find quality content and allows us to continue to make videos like this for you. Click on subscribe and then hit the bell so you get notified anytime we add new content. Okay everyone, so we're going to start out here on the website briefly. We're going to be using the free version today. I actually used the paid version for myself, and the paid version gives me a few additional features that I find are very useful. But for the purposes of this video, the free version is going to do just fine. It's going to do everything we need it to do, and so that's what we're going to use. So we're going to go ahead and scroll down here, and we're going to select Reflect 7 free, and we're going to download that. We want a personal free license. You can enter your email address here. We're just going to say continue, and we're going to download the software. Now this is very similar to most other software downloads and installs, so I'm not going to document here in this video all the steps to install the software. I'm going to go ahead and install that off camera, and then I'll pick back up with you once I have the software installed, and we'll step through doing the backup. Okay everyone, so we're back. We have the software installed. Now before we get started, you will need a place to store your backups. You can either have an additional internal drive to your system, but what I use personally and what I recommend is that you have an external hard drive to store your backups. So I've gone ahead and plugged that into our system. We go to this PC, we can see that I have a drive here for my backups. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the software. Now when we first launch the software, it's going to have all of our drives selected. We don't want to back up our backup drive, so we're going to deselect that. We're only going to select the drives that we want to back up. In this case, we have one drive, and this has our operating system and recovery partitions. Now you can do a number of things in here. You can schedule backups here on this tab. But in this case, we're not going to schedule backups. We're just going to do a single backup of the system. So once you have the drive and partitions that you wish to back up selected, we're going to go here to backup, and we're going to say image selected disks. And here we can see our selections, and we can choose our destination. In this case, we want to store the backups on our backup drive, so we're going to select that. And we can make a new folder in there, and we can call that System Backups. But you can call that whatever you'd like, and say OK. Next, we can choose a file name, or we can just simply use the image ID as the file name, and that's what we're going to do. And if we take a look at our advanced options, we can select our compression level. I typically just leave this on medium. And then we can choose how we want to perform the copy, whether we want to make an exact copy of the partitions or whether we want to use the intelligent sector copy. This is what I always use, and I've never had a problem with restoring files. And then we can split the files. I typically leave this on automatic. We can password protect the backup. So if you're storing this and you're storing sensitive data, you may want to add a password, and when you go to restore that backup, you'll need the password in order to proceed with the restore. Next is the auto verify image. I always like to do this. It does make the process take a little bit longer, but what this does is it will read back the image after you create the backup, and it'll verify that it can read all the information from the backup, because there's nothing that's going to be more frustrating than making a backup of your system and then not being able to restore that backup when you need to. So I always select verify image or backup file directly after creation. Next, we can add some comments. And lastly, we can choose to shut down the system, hibernate, or suspend after the backup process completes. We're not going to do that in this case, and we're going to say OK. We're going to say next. And here's where we can actually schedule backups. So if you're not using this just for a one-time backup, if you plan to do regular backups, which I recommend that you do, you can choose a backup template. And you can see there's a lot of different options here. I personally use the incremental backup set. And I'll show you this briefly. And what this is going to do is periodically it's going to take a full backup, and then it's going to do daily incrementals. And then we have retention rules. This is going to tell the software how long we want to keep our backups. And then when we want to run the purge, and so on and so forth. Because we're just doing a one-time backup here, I'm not going to select any template here or create any scheduling. We're going to say next. And on this screen, we're going to see a summary of everything we've chosen. And we're going to click finish. Okay, everyone. So now we're on the last step. We're going to actually perform the backup. And we can choose to save all the options that we selected as a backup definition file. Now, if you're creating a schedule, you're going to need to do this. Since we didn't create a schedule, and since we're only doing a one-time backup here, I'm going to deselect that option, and I'm just going to leave run this backup now selected. I'm going to say OK. And this is going to back up our system. So we're going to back up our system here. I'm going to let this complete, and I'll pick back up with you when we're finished. Okay, everyone, so here we are. The image was created and it was validated. So we're going to say OK, and we're going to close. And let's just go to our backup drive and see what happened. And as we can see, here's our backup file. So we have successfully backed up our system. The next thing we're going to do quickly is I'm going to show you how to restore from the backup. So we're going to open up the Macrium Reflect. We're going going to select Restore here at the top, and we're going to browse for an image or backup file to restore. We're going to go to our location where we stored the backup, and we're going to select our backup image. Now here we can see what we backed up with this image, and we can see all the information about the backup, and we can browse the image. So let's do that, and this is going to allow us to mount the image file, and I'm going to select the C drive since that's where our data was stored, and we'll select the drive letter E. We'll say OK. So this is what's so nice about this software, because it's going to now mount this image as an additional drive in File Explorer, and we can go through the drive and look at everything that's inside of it. So very nice. I'll right click and I'm going to say unmount image. Disconnected. And from here we can restore the image, we can verify the image, and we can also delete the file, which we don't want to do that. So this is how we can restore our backup. Okay folks, so in this part of the video we're going to talk about backing up and restoring a system that we cannot boot. In order to do that, we are going to need to create a recovery media, and to create the recovery media we're going to need a system that we can boot, where we can install the Macrium software to create the recovery media. So the first thing we're going to do is create the recovery media by opening the Macrium Reflect software. We're going to go into Other Tasks, and we're going to create Rescue Media. Now this is going to give us a couple of different options. We can use an ISO file, we can create a removable USB flash drive, or we can use the Windows boot menu. This is going to apply only to the system that the software is currently installed on. Now since we need to use this on a different system, we don't want to choose that option. In our case, we're going to use the removable USB flash drive. If you have trouble booting the system from the USB flash drive, you may need to enable the multi-boot MBR/UEFI option here. Now this rescue media is going to use the Windows recovery environment. Unless you have a specific reason to change that, I recommend you leave everything here at the defaults. You can go into advanced, and in here we have some additional options. We can change the architecture. We can add BitLocker support. We can use a custom base WIM. Again, this is going to be outside of the scope of this video. This video is just basically going to show you how to do the backup and recovery of the system. Devices and drivers, and the rescue media volume. Now we can choose the base WIM. Again, this is where you can change this. I don't recommend you do that unless you have a specific reason to do so. The Windows recovery environment is going to be the best choice in most cases. So I'm just going to cancel out of this since I'm not changing any options. And I'm going to say build. Now note I've already inserted a flash drive into the system. This is my E drive, and it says recovery there. And we can see that it's a 16 gig USB flash drive. I recommend that you're going to use at least an 8 gig USB flash drive. So we're going to say build. And this process is going to take a little bit of time. So I'm going to speed this section of the video up, and then I'll pick back up with you once this is completed. Okay, so as we can see, the rescue media has been successfully created. We're going to say OK, and we're going to close. At this point, we should be able to use our USB flash drive to boot our system and perform our backup and restore operations. So next we're going to get into that. Okay everyone, so we booted from our recovery drive and we're in the Windows recovery environment and we have Macrium Reflect open. Now by default it's going to be open on the Restore tab, but we can select the Backup tab as well, and we can do backups from here. So in the case of a Windows system that's not bootable, you obviously can't boot into Windows to install the software and run the backup. You will need to create the rescue USB on a different system and boot the non-bootable system from this recovery drive in order to get in here to do the backup. This is also how you're going to restore the system if the system is not bootable. In here we're going to see all the same options, or not all, but many of the same options that we see in the full Windows version of the software. Under the Backup tab here, we're going to select what we want to back up. Again, making sure, and I've already done this, but making sure that you deselect your backup drive. And then we're just going to say image selected disks, and we're going to have a lot of the same options here. We're going to select our destination, the file name. If we go into advanced options, we can set the compression. The one thing we don't have the option for in here is to password protect the backup, so that's important to note. But the file size, always make sure you verify the image, folks. I'm going to say verify image. It will automatically verify the file system before backup, and we can add a comment if we'd like. So I'm going to run through this quickly, and I'm going to say finish. Now this part of the video will be sped up, and I'll pick back up with you once the backup is complete, and we'll look at restoring. Okay folks, so our backup was created and verified successfully. We're going to say OK, and we're going to close this. So the last thing we're going to look at here is restoring when we have a non-bootable system. So the process is going to be pretty much the same as doing the backup from the rescue image here, except we're going to do a restore operation. So we're going to boot the system from the rescue disk, whether that's a USB or a CD. In most cases it'll probably be a USB. And here we can see we have two backups. This is the more recent backup that we just did. And from here we can simply select restore image. And we'll be presented with the source and the destination. Something I always like to do when I'm performing a restore is again to verify the image before we start restoring it. And we can see our source is our backup image and our destination is our local disk. We're going to say next. We have some advanced options. Okay. I'm going to leave these all at the defaults. And we're going to say finish. and it's going to give us this warning that all of these drives are going to be overwritten, and we're going to need to confirm that. So I'm going to go ahead and let this restore run its way through, and I'll pick back up with you when the restore is completed. Okay, so the restore is complete. We're going to say OK. We're going to close. And I'm going to go down here and I'm going to shut down the system. And then we're going to boot it back up and see if it still works. Okay, everyone, so we're back. The system is booted and everything appears to be working properly. So folks, this is a great backup solution. They have a free version that has a lot of great functionality. And if you want some additional functionality such as incremental backups and some other things, the paid version is a good option as well. I'm going to put links in the video description to the Macrium Reflect website. You can go there to get the free version and check out some of the paid options available as well. Overall, this is a very good solution for backing up and restoring your system. Folks, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps others find quality content on YouTube, and we really appreciate it. Click on subscribe and then click the bell so you get notified anytime new content is added. As always, comments, questions, and suggestions are welcome below, and we thank you very much for watching.